What up, ICP fam? Welcome back to Cloudcast, episode 4 with Swissy. In this episode, I chat with Swissy about AI agents on ICP, Swissy's IC-MCP, dev workflows for Cursor, Claude Code, and multi-model swarms, Caffeine and its wins, pain points, and ideas for improvement, DSPy, skills, and Agentic optimization. Please like and subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what kind of value you got out of this episode. Thanks for being here, and without further ado, let's get into it.
Sorry to just jump right in. It's so easy. It's so easy to just kind of like with your questions. They're always so good. So good.
Thanks, bro. We encourage the free flow, so it's all good. I know that you've been cooking on some AI agent stuff, deploying agents on ICP, which is extremely exciting and fairly novel.
Yeah, released the MCP, which was great to kind of have it out in the open now.
Amazing.
Had that concept pretty much since like Cursor came out, and people have been using it. And I was like, oh, how can we tie this into ICP to make it easier for developers to build? And then there's people, Muggsy in the space is doing some MCPs, some cool stuff there, like connecting it to Kong Swap and ICP Swap, things like that. So maybe there's some collaboration there.
Like Agentic trading.
Exactly. There's so many buzzwords and so many concepts, but to distill it down the most simply is AI works in context. Like you'll see context everywhere. Like people say context engineering. Like AI has training data, it's been trained to do something, and then you interact with it. When you interact with it, it's called inference. Again, more lingos, more big words, but all that is
good. It's very good. We're breaking it down for the viewers.
Exactly. Yeah. Is inference is the interactions, and then if it has like again with training data and things like that, you ask it like what day is it, and that's where sometimes you see like it might be November, but it'll say oh it's August. And it doesn't really like actually
sync.
Yeah, it doesn't sync. So that's a very small example, but now imagine for like developing on ICP, where like let's say for some like Mo like base modules versus like Motoko core, some are outdated, some are deprecated, and some aren't advised to use anymore. But these models don't have that. These models don't have necessarily all of the updates or all the updates all the time. So you might try to develop on something, but like Caffeine would do probably a much better job because they've done all extensive kind of training. Yeah. But then how do you, like without training, like you and I can't necessarily train models unless we have a ridiculous amount of money or certain funding, or we do it on a small model, but then the outputs aren't going to be great. We could fine tune. You and I can do that pretty easily now with the tooling that's out there, which is one avenue, which they said that they did as well. And they being DFINITY to get Caffeine, like the model behind Caffeine, the brain behind it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, again, going back to the very basics of it, you have an AI that gets trained and then you ask it like, hey, can you do this? Or how do I do this? And sometimes it doesn't know. So how do you get it to know? You add context. You give it like the answers to the test. And MCPs, skills, APIs, like all these are just different ways of getting that context added to these systems. So the concept with the IC-MCP, and again, there's so much depth that ICP can go to that each MCP could be very different. But just the one that I built, starting with that one, the IC-MCP is supposed to be this kind of interlayer between the end result that you want to get and the AI model that you're using. So right now, if you want to get like the best ICP output, you probably go to ICP Ninja or the docs, and then
DFINITY docs.
Yep, DFINITY docs, like straight to the source kind of thing. Mm-hmm. If you didn't, you would go to Caffeine, and you'd kind of like similar to how we say like the vendor locks of different platforms, you'd have the vendor locks of like Caffeine, like you have to use
Caffeine's training and fine tuning.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's say you're a developer and you're using Cursor, or you're using Claude Code, or you're using whatever you want to use. You have to manually kind of trial and error, see where the model does well, see where it doesn't, And then if you see it's messing up a lot, you add markdown files, which is just another guide of context that allows, again, it's answers to the test. And DFINITY has done a great job of listing out all the answers in their documentations. ICP Ninja is like a phenomenal resource for this. But while I was building and people I was talking to were building, they all have their own markdown files. They all have their own like flow of going to the docs, and like it's just so slow. And now you can essentially plug these in with these tools. So one of the aspects of the MCP is just gathering that context. So if you're developing, you can just, rather than having to rely on manually searching the docs, it'll just search them for you. And rather than searching, this one I did over the weekend, but rather than searching ICP Ninja, it just sources it for you. And then there's other tools that are exciting, which is like generating tests or understanding enhanced orthogonal persistence or things that are unique to that space. And then there's a new one that I'm trying out a little bit, which is code execution, because MCPs can have a lot of context bloat. Again, I'm going ridiculously fast through these things, but the code execution is pretty cool, and you can limit the token input that you're getting so that the models, like essentially the lower the tokens, the higher the output in terms of quality. You want to use the maximum brain power, but if you stuff it with a bunch of unnecessary tools that it's not going to use, it cuts to that quality.
Loaded.
Yeah. Yep. So it's kind of like this intermediary of, you have all these different AI tools that everybody uses. You know, I don't use the same things that you might use or other people might use, but ICP for the most part will remain. And that like information, the compilers are so cool because you can do like the DIDC for Candid. You can do, of course, Rust has its own, and then Motoko has one where you can actually validate code. So the MCP has some like crazy stuff that maybe some people will discover eventually or iterate on top of. Again, it's completely open source, so people can just build off of it or make their own. But at the end of the day, it's not something that's paid or anything. Like, it's just supposed to make building on ICP easier, regardless of what you're building on.
Amazing breakdown. So could you list some of the common tools, AI tools, that can now be integrated through these MPC workflows? You mentioned a couple, and I'm just curious what like that entire spectrum of tools is and looks like as a noob.
Yeah, to unpack it, we can start at the top, which is you have your coding environments. So where you build, you can build in terminal, which with AI is kind of nice, but without it is pretty rough. Unless you know like Vim or NeoVim, there are ways to do it in those different editors. You have Z.dev. I really like because it's so fast as like a text editor. So you can like see the files that you're interacting with. You can like go in and actually input them and output them, and you can have like a nice editor. You can see what you're working on
while you're vibe coding.
Similar to how like we see it with Caffeine. You can see the code that it produces, but there are tools that are called IDEs, and for those, they're again development environments where VS Code is probably the most common one, where you have your code, your terminal, everything that you need. It's like your command center for building.
Got it.
And then Cursor came out, which is a fork of VS Code. So like cloned it, and then like, again, forking and everything is so good because you're able to build on like the shoulders of giants.
Captured progress. Yeah.
So I'm all for it. Like if we had to wait for Cursor to rebuild VS Code, then it might have taken a while. But then what they brought is AI and agentic tooling to the development environment. So whether you're in terminal came a bit later, but rather than, you know, manually searching for files that you're using or having to know about how files are supposed to be structured or how to write the actual code, the early days was with ChatGPT, you would copy paste. And even before that, you would have Stack Overflow, which is kind of like, I don't know, like a Reddit, but for code, I guess, where people had like solutions to things. So when you were stuck, like one of the first things that you would do is reference Stack Overflow, see if somebody else had already solved it or solved it similarly, and then build off of it. But then ChatGPT came out, which I think was heavily trained and like uses the resources of Stack Overflow. So you don't have to go anymore to source it. You can
To
just ask
mainly
ChatGPT.
research, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can write into ChatGPT and then it gives you an example and then you copy that and you put it into your code. So there's still some manual work. And then what Cursor did at the very base of it is it put those two together. So you didn't have to leave your environment. It edited it immediately in that source and you could click accept or you could plan, you could have the agent, you could talk to it all in one place. And then Claude Code came around, which abstracted all of that and just does it in the terminal. So rather than having to do certain things manually, you would just have
In
this
the
like
IDE.
one. Exactly. Yeah, you would, and you could still use Claude Code in an IDE,
Okay.
and it can integrate with that tooling. I personally use it in the terminal just because it's so much quicker, and you can do there's things that's called tmux and different things that goes way too, I think, technical right now, but we obviously can.
I'll note
But
it down. tmux.
yeah, tmux. Yeah.
So terminal, there's hard advantages to the terminal, having the AI work directly in the terminal versus the IDE.
Yeah, exactly. So again, to the conversation of context, the agent is only going to be as good as it knows like what it's dealing with. And in the terminal is like the source, like the
Right.
source
Raw.
code.
Yep.
Yeah, like where are the files that you're using? Where are the next file is going to go? What is your working directory? Like all of that is information that the AI needs to know to be able to produce like good output. Like you would hate to work on something and try to fix it and then realize that it was done in a different project that had nothing to do with what you were working on,
Totally.
which is a bit tricky. Like if you're just dealing with terminal and trusting Claude Code to do it, you run the risk of that happening. But again, it so rarely happens because it has that context immediately available. But yeah, that's kind of
I
the
see.
journey of and like you could still use Cursor and IDEs, and they've done some really good improvements. And then you have Claude Code, but all these things, they have these AI brains behind them. Regardless if you're in terminal, if you're in IDE, if you're in like ChatGPT online in a web interface like Caffeine, you have an AI brain that's either like a Gemini model, Claude model, or could be like OpenAI models, or it could be open source models, so you don't have to pay as much.
DeepSeek.
Exactly, yeah, DeepSeek, GLM, Kimi K2 just came out with a thinking model, and the trick is actually to do multiple versions, so you can save costs. Like you don't want like Cursor has a master class on this, but you can have like one model just write the actual code. So the brain has already thought all the way through, and then you need it to actually write it. Like you need to write what the other model said.
Execute.
Yeah, exactly. You can execute with much smaller models, save costs, and speed up the process. So there's different things like that. Like Gemini might be really good at solving like really hard problems. ChatGPT might be really good, or not Chat, but GPT-5 might be really good at planning. Grok could be really good at social media, and you kind of you can play around with all these different tools
So
to compare the
deploying
outputs.
multiple LLMs in tandem for specific use cases to optimize and allow for
Yep.
max efficiency. And I believe I heard Muggsy was talking about that with his trading.
Yep.
So how many would you use in tandem? I'm sure it can be arranged, but there's best practices being established and evolved for this.
Yeah. Like
Swarms, right? They're called.
Yeah, swarms are like multiple, I would say, brains
Okay.
getting unleashed. And then that brain can connect into multiple tools. That's where like skills, MCPs, and other things like that come into play. But it isn't like there isn't like a very distinct number of how many. There has been research done that if context is key, so say you're building an application or you're doing like some sophisticated product work or marketing work, the ideal version would be single agent multi-routing. So you would have one agent that persists throughout the entire production process, just like checking in on different things. And the other agents are the ones that might complete different tasks. So you might have like Gemini, like 2.5 Flash, that goes out and actually writes things or does a quick web search or does these like little things that it can be good at. And then you'd have like Sonnet 4.5 with extended thinking that goes through and periodically kind of takes in what those tools have actually done. That way, each step is optimized. But there's no like clear cut, like, hey, like use this at this time, use this at another.
Sure.
You'd have to like observe for your own use cases.
Got it.
Yep.
That's really a good explanation.
Yeah. So then like, where do these MCPs, where do these tools come in? It's wherever there's lacking in that brain. And it's kind of like if you ever seen The Matrix and Neo gets like the kung fu
Download,
right? Download,
update. Yep. Right.
Exactly. So hopefully people can see like the IC-MCP would be something that's like, hey, like download like internet computer brain into whatever AI you're using.
So exciting, dude.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But again, yeah, like Muggsy, other people are building, and it's exciting to see. Like there's tooling in his that like trade and has different parameters and expertise that again you can just plug in rather than you and I trying to figure out how to do it ourselves. And it's kind of like this open protocol. There are ways to make it paid. There are also ways to host it in different ways, but again, the IC-MCP is completely open source.
Wow. And so how are you using it? And
Yeah, so
what use cases are you applying it for?
currently not as much as I hope others are. My main use case is to improve it. I don't develop on the back end side of ICP as much to leverage like the compiler tooling and generating tests. I mean, there's also ways that like, I don't know, I feel like it'd be pretty cool to have a blog on ICP or things like that, where if I didn't know where to start, I would be a little bit lost. Maybe I would try Caffeine. I would eventually find ICP Ninja. I would find the blog, and I'd probably start creating there. But it would be pretty slow because I couldn't use Cursor or Claude Code or the tools that I want to use. So now that's an option because now with the IC-MCP, you can actually have that in there. If I wanted to quickly test some Motoko or different things, now it knows how to. But no, I think for me, it's kind of like a meta analysis where I can use it to improve itself and see how that goes. But again, it's like Caffeine is one option. And I think that for the non-technical, it's the correct path. And then I think for the slightly more technical or more vibe coding, I do think connecting into Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, like places where people are spending billions to make a really good brain, going right to the source and just like plugging it in with as much ICP content and abilities.
Context.
Exactly. If you're using an AI model to audit your upgradability of your project and it has no idea about enhanced orthogonal persistence, it's not going to give you a good score and you're going to sit there and question what's going on. But if it has that context and it understands how things actually work, then you might get a more accurate result, or you might get a suggestion and say like, hey, like this thing exists on ICP and you're not really using it well. So here's a suggestion. So things like that, I think, are what I'm interested in building out, seeing how it works. I've had ideas as well of expanding it, potentially turning into like the Convex Chef, which is also open source, and seeing if there's a link that we can combine and people can bring in their own tools. But again, the end goal is just building on ICP and burning cycles. So in whatever way that I can kind of help bring that along, I'll do it.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Do you have examples of how others are using the MCP thus far?
Yeah. So, and full disclosure, like I don't track like on NPMs and stuff. You can track usage and kind of source it to a certain place, and then you can see activity. And if anybody's like looked around, they'll see that there's none of that. So it's really trying to be like I work on ICP in a completely different way than maybe others do.
Of course.
And vibe coders might come in and they're going to use it in a completely different way. And it's supposed to be this template that no matter where you are, if you're like a seasoned ICP developer or brand new and you've never heard of it, it's supposed to be this kind of intermediary that guides you along the way. Whereas in the past, you'd have to do a lot of manual work, or it's not necessarily baked in. I think Caffeine did a phenomenal job. Like the quality that they have in terms of what it can do is completely ridiculous. Like
on the blockchain.
Yeah, they've done
Only place you can do it.
completely good job. And I think they're like the outputs aren't as good and the UX isn't nice, and people are having a hard time finding it. So that's like a growth and marketing issue. But the core of it is so well done. So yeah, I think just chipping away on those things, and then that's fine. But how I'm
it's
seeing,
it's like ChatGPT 0 right now. It's not even, you can't even pay to use it, so it's technically in beta, right?
Yeah.
So to be expected.
Exactly. And it's to your question of how I'm seeing people use it. There's some people that have reached out that says that it's improved their like normal Claude Code or their codex things. Some said that they're using it to learn more about how ICP works. And then others that are more seasoned don't want to be bothered with like generating tests. So they'll leverage that. But again, it's not like this has been out for a year and it's a seasoned, polished product.
Totally.
Like this is just something to get people thinking about things in this way and thinking of ways that, like, no matter where you are, again, if you've never coded in your life, or you've never looked at trying to build something on ICP, or if you've been building on ICP for 20 years, there's something that you can take from this. There's something that you can either add or tweak on your own. If you want to fork and kind of develop or add things, there's for each person, there's something in a direction to go in.
Whatever you can imagine, you can do and build.
Exactly.
It's getting easier and easier, quicker and quicker.
The end game for it, like, I'll be completely honest, is for DFINITY to come out with something and then it becomes irrelevant. That would be nice. Or potentially
what becomes irrelevant?
The IC-MCP, like the tool itself. Or we
like
collaborate.
It just and get so good that you can skip that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you and
Caffeine, you're saying? Or
no, I would say like Caffeine is one avenue.
Right.
And they've said it. They said in the like 2.0 article, they said like it's for non-technical.
Yes.
And technical people can build on it. And right now, technical people can get better outputs than non-technical. So there's more work to be done on that as to why.
You're saying a more official MPC built by DFINITY?
100%.
Yes.
100%. Okay. Or a CLI tool. You don't have to do an MCP. If I was DFINITY, I would do CLI. There's a CodeRabbit. CLI is a great example.
Can you break CLI down for the...
Yes, so CLI is command line interface. All it is like a different level of tool. MCP plugs into the AI context itself, whereas a CLI tool is its own environment. And then the brain reaches out of its brain, I guess, and then goes to that source. So rather than, what's a good example? We talked about the Matrix one where you're downloading something. I guess in this place, it would be the matrix would be the CLI. So the AI would go into the environment and the whole thing would be ICP or ICP focused.
Wow. Got it. What else? Also, just I got stuck trying to build my video portfolio so many times that I'm just like, I've given up. I feel defeated, and it's like too much of a time commitment to keep starting over and over and over and over. Granted, it's been like a month-ish since I've really grinded on it, so maybe Caffeine has improved sufficiently since, but I'm not so sure. I'm just like, I have PTSD of starting over and over and over and like getting the whole thing built out and certain aspects of it being excellent and what I want, but then getting pigeonholed or stuck or, convoluted, and then having to start over. And then I can't preserve those parts I really liked from the prior draft. And then I might I might achieve other functionality I'm seeking out, but then losing, it's a trade-off for the stuff that worked well before. So that's kind of the loop I've been finding myself stuck in with Caffeine. And so I'm like wondering if I should consult you or someone else to help me just build the thing, manually, or with the help of these tools that you're talking about. But I'm totally brand new, so totally overwhelmed. I mean, I know I can learn it, but it's daunting.
Yeah,
to get off the ground.
really hope that DFINITY is listening or listens to that section, because that's everything that you've said. If I'm a product person behind the scenes of Caffeine, is product gold. Like everything that you described, because you described your experience with Caffeine, your experience outside of Caffeine with different tooling, and how you're overwhelmed. I think the only things left would be maybe like where it was doing well and where it maybe wasn't. But if your solution is to reach out to me or other people that might be considered like experts, I guess, of this kind of building and like AI tooling, then it's a knock on not your ability, but the product's ability. Because the product, again, for non-technical people is supposed to satisfy you. I would put you as one of the ideal customers. I would say maybe not because you really know about ICP, so you're kind of an advanced
Sure.
customer already,
Sure.
which again, like the tool that you're building is a great example for it. But yeah, just masterclass in just describing your own experiences. And I really hope they're listening to it, because it's each of those pain points. I'm sure there's 1,000 people that are experiencing the
Mhm.
exact same thing. And hopefully they reach out to you and ask you questions.
And to
And
their credit, I haven't submitted my feedback, and so that's
yeah,
on me too.
yeah. So we'll see
100%.
after this. We'll see. We'll see if they
Yeah.
reach out after this. Because
I
if
moved houses and like just got slammed with work and had to just totally fall off. But I was really grinding for like a month, and I was hoping to convey more of this feedback like vlog style. So that's what we're doing now.
nice, yeah.
Um,
And hopefully they take the time to like really strip away the pain points that you're having, because I think if they solve for it and you don't have to ask me or you don't have to consult other AI tools,
Game over.
yeah, game over. They've won, which we all want to see. So
And
yeah,
again, it's like comparing ChatGPT 5 to ChatGPT 0.1 right now. So
yeah,
we got to
yeah,
constantly give them that grace and know that
yeah. I
we're on
think,
track and the roadmap is solid.
yeah, on my end, I'm a bit more critical.
Yeah, please do, because I'm just being naively optimistic as an ICP
It's good.
moon
It's
boy.
good.
So yeah, it's great. This is why it's such a valuable
No,
contrasting
and I
discourse.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's so good that like you and I have these different perspectives, and I
yep,
think why these calls are so good, and why we come back to them is it gets the best out of both of us. And
100%.
I think to the point of where caffeine is, like caffeine is if all the AI models and AI agentic tools like Lovable and Bolt.new and all of these things were out, and V0 and all those, and you built it kind of from scratch. There's so many little things that other platforms have struggled with, like context awareness. Klein is phenomenal at that. V0 in terms of making sure that when you just want to change a button color, like only those two lines, if not like one line of code changes.
It's
Um,
isolated.
yeah, there's so many like, and these are not easy things to solve. Like
Right.
every single one of these like app builders went through it.
Well, and
But
especially on the blockchain, right? And that's why, like, currently it has to start from scratch every time because of the consensus mechanism and situation there. Is that
yeah,
true or no?
my gut would say that it's not, and it's more on the model itself.
Oh,
That
because I'm sorry, the execution, the compiling, and all that's off chain initially,
yep, for
right?
caffeine.
So
Yep,
unless you're going live, the consensus mechanism stuff wouldn't come into the
correct. Yeah,
equation.
nailed it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So with the models, what they do is they have their, like when you want to make a change, they have a tendency to want to rewrite the entire file so that it has it as context. There's like I think it's called turbo repo or turbo something, and then there's like either a semantic search or there's some tooling that those two together. I'd have to unpack exactly what it is, but those two together are what solves, like at least for V0, that's what they use to solve for it. And I'm sure there's other things behind the scenes, but I mean, I like all I've done is been on the user side. I've seen V0 struggle with the same things, and then they fixed it, and then they released like an entire blog about how they did. And then now I see the same issues with caffeine. So either somebody is not like interacting with all these other tools, which is usually the case, but at some point, like it would be nice to see all of these different like benefits that you see in these other toolings and these other things, and kind of encapsulate those into caffeine. And I think it'll come. And I,
Mhm.
like, again, right, like every single day caffeine gets better than before. So being in now and using it is fine. You're way ahead of the curve on that front. And all the pain points that you have, you can learn from them. So in terms of like the daunting task of learning, I always say do it.
So good.
Just yeah, just because it's obvious in hindsight. Like right now, for example, I'm learning Rust, which
Mhm.
everybody says is a difficult language, and people say learn it, people say don't learn it. The brief instances that I've had with it, it's phenomenal. And I can see why people are very polarizing around it. But I love that it's tied to ICP and that you can run Rust on ICP. I love that the ANDA framework is on ICP or in Rust, and you can have their ICOSS, which is open source software for their own stuff. There's a lot of cool things that you can do, but yeah, never in a million years did I think I was going to learn Rust. Like it's, it. I would say just jump for it, and every time you run into something, it's valuable. Every time you run into a place where you're
Yes.
like, oh, I don't know how to like make this better. Oh, like this worked. All of that, like there's a concept called compound engineering that I think we've talked about on different
We have.
podcasts.
I love talking about it.
Yeah. So all those things, now that AI is around, write them down. Like it doesn't matter if you're doing like a Apple Notes or whatever, or journal even, because then now you can take a picture and you can upload your picture, but like
Yep.
write these things down, and hopefully there's a tool or something that you can plug into. That's why people love using Cursor or Claude Code, not to produce code, but to just ask questions for it and like schedule marketing or do an analysis or
They organized.
yeah, or like
Uh-huh.
get, I don't know, like read these like 4 books or get the takeaway from these 10 books on marketing and go to market strategies, and create a like effective business plan or effective like a marketing calendar for the next two
Mhm.
weeks or whatever. Or like what do we need to reach? There's a depth though, like that I will say is still needed. Like we talked about it before, but like if you want to get the most out of an AI model, obviously you're just gonna know the code, because then you can steer the AI much better. But if you don't know, then you can ask questions, and then you can have AI models that talk to other AI models and just steer themselves.
So crazy. That's when it gets exponential.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I think what I'm most excited about caffeine is that this is the ground floor, and people are using it like yourself, and it's not getting good outputs. And
Some are. I've built several more simple projects that are great, but it's, the one main thing that I want for my brand and channel, etc. I can't seem to optimize and deploy live yet.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think you could if you used Claude Code and then plugged in the IC-MCP as a shameless plug.
Let's go.
But
No, that sounds amazing to have the ability to isolate and fine tune stuff, and yeah, have the compounding aspect of the process. It sounds
yeah,
really good and worth it. Yeah.
yeah, because I don't know, there's multiple ways to build on ICP. You can go through Caffeine and build directly on it within the confines of Caffeine. You can build outside of Caffeine within other AI tools, but both
Mhm.
of them, at the end of the day, they build something on ICP. So right now we have AI that's building, again, this is the self-writing internet, AI that is
Come on.
building on ICP. And eventually we won't necessarily need you and I. You might just like talk to it. Either that's their convo that they hinted at, or maybe it's not. But you can just talk to it, and then something is built, and then it's less of a okay, let's wait around and try to develop it using AI, and more so, AI is good enough to just create.
It's all
Uh,
abstracted for the user.
yeah, exactly. And then eventually it won't even need you and I of like having product ideas or pain points. Once those are all solved or something, then it's AI itself, AI improving different products, or like again, like
Autonomous debugging and
yeah,
improving.
yeah. And there's so many exciting things that can be done. I was talking to Dexter, I think the other day, of an idea I've had for a while, which is having like mixture of expert model, which is all the latest models are mixtures of experts, which is like they have one kind of brain in their parameters and then they go into different experts. And so the brain can actually funnel to the right things. So it can be good at math, it can be good at coding, it can be good at writing, and it knows like what kind of direction to go into.
What is this called?
Mixture of experts.
Mixture of experts.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Dexter.
Yeah.
He's the man running the Caffeine Accelerate program and helping so many people learn how to use caffeine, including myself.
Yeah. So his PDF that he made, I really hope he listens to this and he gets to this point, because he should 100% make it into a skill.md file, or like look into Claude Code skills. I don't know how those work necessarily in Codex or Cursor. That's why I did an MCP, but he could make like a caffeine skill, and it would essentially be the exact same PDF that he's already gone through and meticulously like tried and tested to fine tune it manually.
That we all use and feed to our AI, like our LLMs.
Yeah.
And then we're bouncing back and forth between caffeine and the LLM. And yeah, that could be much cleaner, right?
Exactly. And that document is like, everybody who starts with that document is getting 10x better outputs than everybody who doesn't.
100%.
Which is, again, that's more on like the caffeine model itself and potentially not using like Sonnet 4.5 or those things. But it's also a testament to, again, like producing the answers to the test. And Dexter has laid out the answers to the caffeine test, which ideally they put it into, and again, I hope DFINITY is listening, but there's DSPy, which is a way to prompt engineer rather than kind of prompt trial and error. You can actually engineer and test versus outputs. And so you could plug in Dexter's system prompt and Dexter's like PDF as a system prompt, and then have it run through DSPy, which is a Python library, and have it again programmatically get better outputs based on the system prompt that you give it. And I hope they're doing it already. They probably are. Like if I was building an agentic tooling and I wasn't using it today, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that if you don't know about it, then I guess that is an excuse for not implementing it. But like this is the cutting edge, so you got to be tapped in, you know.
And DSPy you're referencing specifically here. That was a lot for me. I'll have to listen back to that.
Yes, sorry.
That's my classic on with Swissy.
No. Yeah, DSPy.
Yeah, just explain, please, just what that concept is one more time for me.
Yeah, so right now, if you're building an agentic tool, and I've built some of them, I've built some for finance, for different health things or different areas. What you want to do is have a system prompt. Like again, you're giving the answers to the test, but the AI doesn't know what test it's about to take, and it doesn't know what answers they are. So what you can do is you
need dial the system prompt for the specific use case or quote unquote test you're trying to. Got it.
Yeah, you nailed it. And so there's different ways of getting to that like pristine, ideal system prompt. You can just say, like, oh, you're an expert Motoko and ICP developer, which gets you, so far in some sense. And then you can write out different things and you can test and it could be good or bad, or whether you're using GPT-5 or Claude, your system prompt might have to actually change because the different models interpret those instructions differently. But again, if you're using Claude, let's just say that they are, or a fine-tuned version of Claude, Anthropic has an amazing resource library of how to actually leverage these tools and how to make it very, very good in an agentic environment. They have their whole agent SDK is available for people to build off of. But just focusing on the system prompt, what the normal route of doing is you build a system prompt and then you have people test it. And they're like, oh, it's not really good in here. It's not really good over there. It does really good over here. Okay, let's improve it. Or, oh, this output doesn't really look good. There's emojis everywhere. Okay, let's try to put in like cutout emojis. And it's a lot of trial and error and it's very slow. But that was the only tool that you could use. That was the only way to go about it. But now with DSPy, you have a programmatic way of running through those iterations. and you can then score it and say, okay, this was a good output, this was a bad one. Like it goes a little bit into reinforcement learning, but like very, very light. Like again, you want to stay light. You don't want to do too many fine tuning runs and continuously like just lobotomize your model and stuff. Yeah. So getting it programmatic makes it so you don't have to question. You don't have to like say like, oh, it wasn't working in this way, or oh wow, like this one still has an emoji every like 3 times out of 10. You actually have insights on it, and you could apply it to every single run that you're doing. Like if they don't have it on
Compounding.
right now, yeah, they should, because they're tracking every interaction.
Hmm.
And they know what people are prompting. They know what like a success metric is like, did they ask for it again? Like if they're asking for the same
Are they
stuff
starting
over
to
and
use
over
strong language with caffeine?
again. Yeah, how many prompts does it get until people are swearing at caffeine? That's so good. So
Definitely
good.
been there and seen some screenshots of people. So that's why I say that. All right. So DSPy allows you to optimize your system prompts and compound on the fine tuning of your system prompts.
Yep.
Accurate?
Yep. Exactly. And I don't know. For me, I think the future is not necessarily like fine tuning models. I think we'll have like very, very specific models like that are a few million, or sometimes we'll consider potentially like billion parameters as large, because we'll optimize so well for certain tasks. But yeah, so in terms of DSPy, it's kind of like bringing programming back to prompting. So like it's actually engineering your prompts rather than like, I guess, prompt wishing, which is where you type in a prompt and then like
Hoping.
hoping that it's going to have a nice output for you. It's just essentially it's kind of like gambling in a way, where it's really, really good, like I guess as a product, because then people might take 10 times to get the output that they want, and you get paid on each of them, which isn't like it's not a testament to caffeine. Like this is just any AI model.
Totally.
But the goal of caffeine would be to kind of tread that line to say like, hey, if people pay a little bit more, our outputs would be so much better. Or, oh, if we tweak this system prompt, then we can get like X amount of improvement. So little things like that are just different approaches of, again, this is a whole like agent. It's a whole body. It's not just an AI model, which you hope that if the AI model improves, like if they get like Sonnet 4.5, for example, if they just plug that in, you hope that the whole system improves. And if it's not the case, then I think they need to do a little bit more work on the agentic side of things, or getting more tracking on their system prompts or things like that. But I'm sure they're doing it. I'm sure they're looking into all of this. But yeah, these are just a few different tools that I've seen be developed that I'm using on my end.
So the DSPy, in terms of caffeine, like if there was a way to, would it ever apply to caffeine or just the non-caffeine applications?
This would apply to either of them, but more importantly, it would apply to caffeine,
Yeah.
because it's really good tool for agentic engineering. Like people are using caffeine as an AI agent,
Yes.
and it has an AI brain, but again, the agent is where you get the most out of it. The agent goes and actually deploys on
On
ICP, like
chain.
yeah, all those benefits. And to know how to do that, some of it is probably like hard coded, some of it probably isn't generated. It has what's called an agentic harness, which is a term that I've seen people use going around. I think it works well in the sense that like Cursor and Claude Code and Codex and these all caffeine as well is like a harness that you put in your AI brain too, and it can do different things.
Very cool. And so just further like developing my understanding of this, the DSPy would allow users to modify the caffeine system prompts in real time to optimize for their application.
So very close.
Okay.
The only difference is caffeine would be able to improve their own system prompts.
Without the user needing to mess with that at all.
Exactly. Yeah. So you and I would interact with caffeine, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And they can look at that, and it's very, very valuable for them. Like every interaction with caffeine is super valuable. So again, highly, highly recommend, even if stuff doesn't work, like just keep trying, keep going. I think there should be like flags and stuff that I would maybe put in of seeing like where people copy pasting their prompts from, because you don't necessarily know that information, but I know that people who are getting the most out of caffeine are using like Grok. If you're Dexter, I use Claude Code. Some people use ChatGPT.
I've
Whatever
used
you
mostly
use.
ChatGPT and Perplexity.
Nice.
Does it? But yeah, I'd be curious to like see objective comparisons between those 3 for caffeine. I haven't done testing, obviously, but
yeah. And if they're only going with how caffeine is being produced and their outputs that they're tracking, but they don't know that like
input
the system
source
prompts are coming from like ChatGPT or Grok, or like that people are actually doing that, then you're kind of blind. And it's not, they don't necessarily have to know exactly where things are coming from, but like listening to this or watching Dexter, you see clearly that to get the most out of caffeine, you don't use caffeine. Like you use Grok and then you plug into ICP Ninja, you get the examples and you go that route. And if I was building caffeine, I would look at that route and say, okay, how can we get this into caffeine so that they don't have to go outside of it?
Nice, dude. How you feeling?
Good. I think I'm
Yeah, we're pretty.
Yeah,
We've been in the trenches. 2 hours, 6 minutes.
I think that's a good place.
Me too.
I think we're good.
I would love to eventually have like the demo and explanation. Like if you want to do some kind of walkthrough to help get people off the ground who want to use your tools, that's the idea.
Yeah. I've been doing
myself included, dude. I want to learn and to use it and see. I don't even know how I would apply it. So like just having you talk me through potential applications would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Then I usually say, like, for me, my DMs are always open. I added it.
I appreciate it so much, dude.
Yeah, we can also do like an offline, like a private call and kind of guide. I've done that for a few people who are testing out the IC-MCP, the IC-MCP. That way it like really targets your needs. I think you'll use it differently than other people, or you might have, like, we could try to test out to build that product that you wanted to build.
Podcast assistant tool.
Yep.
I talked over you too. I didn't mean to talk over you. If you were talking to the audience when you said your DMs are open, if you want to just say that again, maybe.
No,
was that to me?
Both. Yeah. Saying that, like, for you, if you ever want to get on a call and get on like screen sharing, then my DMs are open. And then for anybody that's listening or might have issues with things or wants to learn about AI or different things, or just like, I don't know, not necessarily spam me, but like share like different articles and stuff, that's cool too. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, we're all here for the betterment of ICP, and it's regardless of how much time you spent in the space or different expertise, like everybody has something of valor to bring. And that's one of the beauties of the space, and one thing that I want to empower.
I appreciate that so much, and I want to foster and facilitate the same energy, and get people curious and help get their questions answered and help them achieve the dreams of whatever they want to build with ICP and the blockchain tech. So that was phenomenal, man. Thank you for your time and all your expertise as usual, and being so willing to talk in DMs all the time. I appreciate it so much, man, just having you as a resource. So
yeah, again, like, a huge appreciation for inviting me up here, and we're always constantly talking DMs and kind of throwing like, hey, like, this came out, let's talk about it. And it's great. Like, it's bouncing off and hearing the questions that you have and seeing different ways of potentially answering them. And I would say a big thing is just, hopefully people listen and they follow you, and they like the different content that comes out, because it does help. It is like a minimal thing, and they got it without any cost to them, but with a cost to you in terms of time and focus and setting everything up. I mean, it's not easy, and especially the edit that you might do on a 2 hour and 10-minute video. Maybe we can look into AI stuff for that as well eventually. But
appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's my pleasure to do the work.
Mad respect. Mad respect. Thank you. Well. And it
takes both of us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It takes the whole community. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We got a lot more episodes in the queue, I think. So let's keep doing them as long as they feel good and we can find the time.
Yep. And maybe at times maybe doing something live or getting
Yeah, I'm
questions
super down
as
for that.
people. Like it'd be cool to
Mm-hmm.
stream, like it just in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like streaming ICP content. I think a lot of people have questions that hopefully we answered, and hopefully they're listening and they say like, oh wow, like that opened my eyes to this thing, or oh I want to try this, or oh wow, like
Yeah.
DSPy, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And they test it out, or maybe they're having struggles with caffeine and they hear you talking about your experience and they're like, wow, okay, maybe it's not just me.
That's right.
And then they start to look at different ways to improve certain things, or they get in touch with either of us and then we can help them out as well. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have interactions where people can maybe like a live on like on Twitter or something where people can kind of post their comments and stuff and
AMA.
do like a round table. Yeah.
AUA.
Yeah.
Ask us anything.
Ask us anything. AUA. Love it.
But yeah, dude, so phenomenal. Yeah, it is quite a lift to do the edit. So just give me a week or two. I get paralyzed into the weeds of polishing and having the perfect image and the perfect captions, and and
You're doing a phenomenal job. You're doing a
thanks,
phenomenal
bro.
job.
Thank you very
And
much.
I would always say
Seriously.
like even like if you get 70%, mission 70,
Yeah.
just run it.
I'm trying to just run it more and let it be rough around the edges for the sake of like time and efficiency for sure. Blockchain
Yeah.
Pill gave me some good advice on that. He's like, yeah, just get it out. So
Yeah.
we're going to get this out. But
Yep.
hope you have a great day, man. And great to hear you as usual. Thank you very much again for all the correspondence.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, bro. Talk soon.